I guess you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, yes, Venki, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So we will be talking about DevOps and the CI/CD implementation with the help of DevOps. So I would just give you an overview of what exactly a DevOps is. So DevOps is used for streamlining the coordination between the software development team and the operations team. So this coordination helps in reducing the slack time, and overall it increases your speed to market. Basically, it eliminates all your manual interventions for regarding the deployment process, or regarding the deployment process in each and every stage, which we do in release management process. So say suppose if this DevOps is not in place, what happens is the development team had to push the files or share the required artifacts or files to operations team, and operations team needs to work on the deployment process. So this is all manual effort, and this operation team should have people doing the deployment processes. But bringing DevOps into place, this can be automated. So this helps in reducing the human efforts, and also the slack time can be reduced. So in DevOps is mainly consists of CI/CD. This CI/CD is more about the development practices. So CI is more to speak on the practice where developers integrate their code. That is, they push their code into a common repository frequently. So whenever this push or commit happens into a repository, automatically sanity and unit tests will be carry forwarded or would be executed. That happens in the continuous integration. So with respect to continuous delivery or deployment, what takes place is your application or artifacts which we develop would be automatically moved to your target environment. So all these artifacts will be deployed without any human intervention. So there is a slight difference between the continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So I'll explain you with the help of a visual cue. So what happens in continuous delivery is we have some set of manual processes in place, like a code review or say an approval process will be coming into picture in continuous delivery. So like when all your testing and sanity part is done, when you use Azure release pipeline for deploying artifacts into the target environment, a person from operations team had to review your request and approve it. Only then it gets moved into the production, which is your continuous delivery process. So in continuous deployment, what we do is it is an automatic process. So whenever your code comes into your repository and sanity and unit tests are through, then automatically your code flows into the target environment. So here you see there's no manual interventions, or operations team need not work on deploying the things into the target environment. So Azure Cloud also has offerings for this DevOps. So the service which is responsible for this CI/CD uh, practices is Azure DevOps. So Azure DevOps has the following components. For our POC, we have taken Azure repos and Azure pipelines. So Azure repos is used as a repository where we maintain or commit our files. So once these files are available in repository, we use this Azure pipelines to move our artifacts into the required or the target environment. So this is a generalized process flow that is available for CI/CD. So here, what happens is whenever a code is committed into your repository, all this process takes place. Like your unit testing and sanity testings are done. Once it is through, we create a build. So once that build is available for deployment, a release pipeline would be triggered. During that release pipeline, a person from the operations team can review the approval, and he would be accepting the approval, and those changes could be deployed in the required uh, resource group or environment. Say it can be a production environment. So, as a part of a POC, we have taken a data ingestion story. So, first we have developed this data ingestion story in POC environment. Once this is developed and tested, we have moved this data ingestion story across the environments with the help of DevOps. So I'll just briefly give an overview of what this data ingestion story includes. So it is all about pushing the data into different folders which we have come up in our Azure Data Lake. So this Azure Data Lake has three different storage layers: source layer, landing layer, and raw layer. So our file would be placed in source layer. So with the help of ADF, we push this source file into landing. So when a file gets dropped in this landing layer, we execute CDC mechanism on that file which is dropped in landing layer, and only the incremental updates would be pushed into the raw layer. So I'll show this in our Azure portal. So in this Azure portal, we created three different environments. One is POC, next is sanity, and the other is test environment. So in POC environment, we have this is our data lake. So in this data lake, we came up with three different stages: landing, raw, and source. And our source file would be sitting in the source layer. So whenever we trigger this data ingestion pipeline, that source file would be moving to landing layer, and this CDC mechanism would be getting executed. So once that CDC file mechanism is executed, file would be moving into this raw layer. So in this raw layer, we'll be only having the incremental updates. So I'll now show how we have taken all this artifacts or moved this artifacts across the environment. So this is just an overview of how I've shown in the Azure portal. So each and every service has its own artifacts. Like ADF has artifacts with respect to data sets and link service. Similarly, Databricks would be carrying the files with respect to CDC mechanism. So all these artifacts would be pushed into our repos. And once the files are available in repos, with the help of our Azure DevOps pipelines, we would be moving that into our target environment. So I'll show you the DevOps interface as well, how we have created our branches here. So this is our DevOps UI. We have created a project here, and within this project, we have created the branches. So the branches which we have used for our POC is master, development, merge, and release. So what we do is we like the developers would be committing their artifacts into the development branch. So once the testing and sanity is through, we move the codes across the branches. So the branches which we included are this merge, master, and release. So in master branch, what we have done is we have introduced a config file driven approach. So we will be having a config file in the master branch. So that config file includes all the expected uh, list of artifacts that have to be part of a build for doing the release. So if all the artifacts are available, then only we would deploy it into the target environment. So it basically acts as a gatekeeper. So we would be showing that during our demo process or walkthrough. So this is data. This is the process flow which we have customized as per our requirements. So what we have done is we have segregated the process flow into three different uh, divisions. So one is your sanity, next is the build, and next would be deployment. So whenever we push files into the repository, we do sanity testing for each and every service. Once that is passed or it is through, we create a build. So here, build is nothing but we bundle all the artifacts that are required for doing a release. So we bundle them or we create a build and then trigger a release pipeline. So this release pipeline helps in deploying the artifacts into your target environment. So from here, Vaishnavi would be walking you through the demo.
Hi everyone, good morning. I will be showing you the CI/CD implementation using our data ingestion story. Uh, so, so as Venki already showed you, we have three different environments, and in this case, resource groups. Uh, our POC would be the source environment, sanity would be the testing environment, and test would be the target environment. So before running any pipeline, I will show you how it is. So here we have our source environment. We have our CDC data ingestion pipelines and our data sets along with that have to be deployed. We have our ADL, which has the landing, raw, and source folders. So I will show you. So this is our Azure Devops repository. Here we have four different branches we are making use of: development, merge, master, and release. So in the development branch, we have our checked in folder where our files will be checking into here. So I will show you how that is done. So as you can see, these are the files that are going to be added. And I am pushing my code files. And as soon as my files are pushed into the checked in folder, my pipeline will be triggered. So the CI build pipeline is triggered, and I'll show you what it has. So basically, the CI build acts as a trigger for other pipelines. As you're making use of these three services, SQL, ADF, and Databricks, this pipeline acts as a trigger for triggering these other pipelines. And once these are successfully done, our code files will be moved from the development branch to the merge branch. So this pipeline is triggered from that. And so our CI build pipeline is being triggered. And here you can see that we have our code files into the checked in folder. So after this is done, this has triggered our other pipelines, SQL, ADF, and Databricks. So I will show you an example of the ADF sanity of what exactly we're doing. So in ADF sanity, we have multiple tasks which help in the deployment of our ADF files from our source environment to our sanity environment. Uh, so the first task is the JSON validator task, which basically validates all our JSON files. And after that, we have our CDC pipeline, which will be deployed to the sanity environment. Our CDC ADF pipeline will be deployed. And our data ingestion ADF pipeline will also be deployed to the sanity environment. The one you can see here, these will be deployed. And after that, we are also making use of a Databricks notebook in our ADF deployment. So here we are making use of this notebook, which is used specifically for sanity testing, which will also be deployed. And after these are successfully done, we have a PowerShell script which will basically trigger an ADF pipeline and also monitor and give us status updates. So as you can see, we have our status, whether the pipeline has failed or whether the pipeline is running and whether it is going to be successfully run. So after this is also successfully done, and after all these tasks are successful, so we have a bash script here, which will basically move our files from the checked in folder to the success folder. So we are making use of git commands to move our files from the checked in folder to the success folder of the development branch. If at all at any point any of these tasks fail, then it goes to the failure case, where our files will be moved from the checked in folder to the failure folder. So after all these pipelines are run, our ADF pipeline is running, and after we get all our code files into the success folder, we are using a config based approach, as Venki mentioned. So basically here we are doing a basic check to see whether we have all our required code files in the success folder. So once our code files are into the success folder, they will be moved to the merge branch. So this is basically to check whether we have our code files in the success folder, SQL, Databricks, and ADF. So once that is done, we will be getting our code files into this folder of the merge branch. I will show you that as soon as that is done. So this development to merge is the pipeline that is responsible for moving our files from development to the merge branch. So as you can see, we already have our SQL files from the checked in into the success folder. and our ADF is also there. So so whatever build pipelines are running, we can basically relate them to this section or this stage in our CI/CD process. So basically, in this stage, we have a sanity test that is done in the using build pipelines. And here you can see that once these pipelines get triggered, we are executing our Databricks notebook, compiling our SQL scripts, and validating our JSON files in the ADF. So that is the stage that is being done here. And so as soon as that is done, all these files will be moved from the merge branch to the master branch. So our Databricks files are going to be checked in here soon. So I will show you the sanity page here. So here you can see that we have our pipelines and datasets that have been moved from the POC environment to the sanity environment. Here you can see our ADF pipelines and datasets. I will also show you the ADL. So, and also along with the ADF, we also have our ADL files, and it carried the same structured landing, raw, and source from our POC to the sanity. And this is the workspace for Databricks. And here you can also see that we have our CDC sanity code file, which has just entered the sanity environment. So now our files will be moved from the development to merge. And once this pipeline is successfully completed, our files will be moved to the master branch. So the master branch also has the same structure as the merge, except that in the master branch, we are doing a check, which will basically be validating whether we have all our code files, which will be moving on to the further stages. So once we have, only if we have all these files in our, which are mentioned in the config file, then our process will be moving forward. And also we are making use of this merge to master pipeline, which will be moving our files from merge to master. So I'm just showing you another way to set a trigger. So here we have, under this triggers option, we have this option to enable continuous integration. And we have this option to set a branch filter. So basically, whenever anything is checked into this merge branch, this pipeline will be automatically triggered. So you can see that is also executed successfully. And once our files are into the master branch, they will be moved into the release branch. So basically in the release branch, we have a folder called build, which basically contains all our code artifacts, that is of ADF Databricks and SQL, which will be then which will be then deployed to the final target environment from here. So our master to release has also successfully run, and our files are in the build folder of the release branch. So I will show you the release pipeline, which will now be triggered because of a new build that has been created. So you can see that it is asking for an approval. So basically, this approval, the operations team will get a mail once this approval is in the pending stage, and anyone will be, and they will be able to review it before approving if that is needed. So I have approved this, and now you can see that the release pipeline is now going to be running. This is how this is going to be running. And coming back to this, the CI/CD implementation, now the build creation part has been finished. So now once this is successfully done, we will be going into the deployment into target environment stage, where our release pipeline, we're making use of a release pipeline to deploy our artifacts to the target environment. So along with this, we have also implemented a rollback process. And the rollback process basically, if at any point in the deployment, any stage fails, then the rollback process will be implemented, where it will be rolled back to the previous successful build. So the previous successful build will be deployed to the target environment. Here all the tasks are succeeding, and you can see that the ADF, the deployment of ADF is done, and the Databricks, so yeah, see, you can see that CDC test is the file which just came into the Databricks workspace. So the it means that our files are successfully deployed, and yeah, you can see that. And yeah, this is our implementation of CI/CD using a data ingestion story that we made use of. So this basically shows us the whole CI/CD process flow. And so we have a few advantages that we can make use of if we use DevOps. So basically, by implementing DevOps, there can be better coordination between the development teams and the operation teams, and basically it is just a smooth process, and the it won't, and there is a very less time gap between the development process and the operations process. And along with that, it reduces a lot of manual effort. So since the manual effort comes down, we can also uh, uh, smaller teams can be used in projects. And since the whole process is being automated, and also within a small time gap, more number of releases can happen, and the whole process can happen in a much smaller time gap. It means that there is a reduction in the slack time, which makes it even more efficient. So this is our demo of CI/CD. We're open to questions now if there are any.
So I assume there are no questions based on the silence.
One question, like you said, rollback happens. What kind of, I mean, in which scenario rollback happens?
So when the deployment gets failed in any of the services, so as Vaishnavi was showing, we have deployments into Data Factory, Databricks, and SQL, right? So if any of the deployment gets failed, what we do is we take the last saved or last best configuration, which is your last best build, and we take that build for executing or processing the deployments.
Yeah. So there is another scenario where functionality fails. Do we can incorporate or can we have a rollback for that as well? Say for example, the logic of I mean it's not the pipeline flow, it's the logic of the pipeline flow fails.
Yeah, so that functionality testing would not be in the process of this deployment. It is only the unit and sanity testing we do.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I'm asking like whether can we scale up or is there any way?
Yeah, so using this component called Azure test plans, we can also implement the functionality aspect as well, but we did not include that in this POC.
Yeah,
Hope that answers your question.
yeah.
Hey, this is Karthik here. Hey, that was a really fantastic demo. The slides were awesome. The first set of slides that you had on DevOps, I think, was very clear in terms of explaining what the concept is. And I think the whole demo also followed that kind of a procedure, right? So it was fairly easy to kind of understand what you guys were doing. So excellent demo. I have a few questions. So one is what you're showing here is a deployment of the code, correct? That is what, so how the code moves across environments. And once it moves across environments, because it's a data ingestion process, once the actual data files are available, this code will actually move the data or whatever, transform the data to the target environment. And that is something you didn't show as part of this, correct?
Yeah, yes, Karthik. So
Okay.
we have only showed the artifacts that are responsible for the deliverables. We're not showing the code flow. It's only about the artifacts, the code
Got it.
artifacts.
Got it. Which again goes back to the, sorry, go ahead, Venki.
Yeah, it's not about the data flow, how it goes across the environments.
Okay, so just going back to Bala's question again. So essentially, only if you start moving the data, you can actually do the functionality testing, right? So did I understand that correct? So you are doing sanity check on the code per se, but then in order to test the functionality, you must use this code in order to move the data and then figure out, okay, whether the new data is in the right format, etc., etc., and then only you can do functionality testing.
Yeah, yes, Karthik. So the data would be varying from environment to environment. Like in our case, the data which we have in our development stage would be sort of masked data. It would not be the actual data. So once we go through the production state, the functionality, or rather in the test environment, the functionality aspects would be would be tested. So if that functionality is working, then we move it to the QA, to the production environment using the DevOps service.
No, correct, Venki. All I'm saying is like the functionality, you could have a test, right, which says, you know what,
Yeah,
in the
basically,
sales column, the value cannot exceed 10,000, right? That could be a check. And unless you move the data, you will really not know whether that threshold has been breached or not. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you have to incorporate functionality testing into this pipeline, you you need to move the code artifacts. You need to run with actual or sample data, right, in different environments, and then both of them passes is when you can say, you know what, this code is actually good to go, right?
yeah, yes, Karthik. So that we can achieve with one more component which I was telling earlier with the help of Azure test plans, but we did not take that up. We only included this pertaining to the services or code with respect to services alone, which is why I did not take
Got
that.
it. Got it. No, I just want to understand what the scope of this is, and then the other part of it, which I'm assuming needs to be incorporated in order for a data ingestion kind of a flow. That functionality testing is very important, right? At the end of the day, you're moving data, so you need to ensure that the target environment, the data is of good quality, correct?
Yeah.
Though the code might be.
Yeah.
Just want to be clear on that difference.
Yeah. So I got your point in that, Karthik.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay, so a good extension to this would be looking at other types of testing. One is a functionality testing. There is something called differential testing, right? So you'll run a piece of code, see what the value is. And then if you know that you haven't changed the code much, it's a very small change, then the new data that is pushed into the target cannot be much different, right? It cannot be like 20% different from the previous data. That's called as differential testing. So I think all types of testing also needs to be incorporated. As part of this. I'm thinking that could be a nice extension to this, right? Because you already have the framework in place.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, sure, Karthik. Yes.
Cool. Just one more question I had was, so the equivalent of a YAML file in Azure context is what that sanity thing that you showed. Is it ADF underscore sanity or whatever, which had a bunch of checks that were being done?
Yeah. So we have alternate approaches to this YAML file. So we have used this UI for coming up with the pipeline. So YAML itself will be having all this. So whatever we create in this UI, that internally gets translated into a YAML file.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that was my assumption. I just wanted to clarify that also. Cool. Okay. Thank you. This was, I mean, a very, very, very nice demo. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hi,
Thank you.
Arun here. Just wanted to add to Karthik's point. And first of all, thank you, Venki and Vaishnavi. This was a very clear demo, and it was very useful. So one thing, yes, Karthik, is that we are driving towards a test-driven development philosophy or an approach. So the sanity test as well as the unit tests are just the starters, and then definitely we will have to have a functionality testing involved, right after the unit test, and as well as the code kind of gets built and then gets deployed into a kind of test environment. So that is definitely on the cards. Just wanted to add to that.
No, absolutely. I get that. But I think it'll be good to add one slide, guys, as part of your deck itself. Your deck explains the DevOps principles extremely well. I think you should include one slide to say, you know what, these are all the different types of tests that needs to get done, because that is a very, very important part of this whole DevOps thing, right? And then tick only the tests that you have currently as part of the demo, so that people are aware that there are other types of tests that is not yet there in the demo, but it's going to come in the future. So it makes it very clear to people that you're thinking through that whole process, right? And so that'll make it complete is what I'm thinking. And then you can start ticking the other tests as you kind of increase the scope of the demo. Okay, that's my only request.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Arun.
Thank you, Karthik, for that. Do we have any further questions?
Venki, sorry, there's other question like there might be some future and scheduled some pipelines use after it need not necessarily it runs on the same day. So,
Sorry, but I could not hear you.
yeah, the dependency pipe. I mean, so now while deploying, there might be some future pipelines will be running, which need not be on the same day, but on a future day. Say today I'm deploying a code, but my pipeline runs on today Sunday. I'm deploying it today, but some of my pipeline runs on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So how do you check on those?
So these pipelines are not the pipelines which you are referring to, the ADF ones. Bala. These pipelines are exclusive for doing a deployment process. So these will not be running daily. Only when you
Code changes on both jobs. If a fail happens, you will be able to find out on only on Monday, correct?
Sorry, I could not get your question, Bala.
No.
Maybe maybe we'll connect offline on that and I'll explain you in detail. Bit.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bala. Yeah, if there are no other questions, I think we are good to close this. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Venki. Thanks, Vaishnavi.
Oh, thanks, Venki. Thanks, Vaishnavi. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay, very well done, Venki and Vaishnavi. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Muthu,
Thank
Karthik, and Arun. Thank you
Okay.
all,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a great day. Bye bye.